Hello, my little loves. Welcome back to chapter 20, which is called The Dainty China Country. And this chapter that you're about to hear is one that is not in the movie at all. So if you've watched the movie and you're thinking to yourself about what parts are coming next, this is almost like an added chapter. So let's get into it right away. While the Tin Woodman was making a ladder from wood, which he had found in the forest, Dorothy lay down and slept, for she was tired from their long walk. The Lion also curled himself up to sleep, and Toto lay down beside him. The Scarecrow watched the Woodman while he worked, and said to him, "Well, now I cannot think of why this giant wall is here, nor even what it's made of." "Well, rest your brains and do not worry about the wall," replied the Woodman. "When we have climbed over it, we shall know what's on the other side." After a time, the ladder was finished. It looked clumsy, but the Tin Woodman was sure it was strong and would answer their purpose. The Scarecrow woke Dorothy and the Lion and Toto and told them that the ladder was ready. The Scarecrow climbed up the ladder first, but he was so awkward that Dorothy had to follow close behind him to keep him from falling off. When he got his head over the top of the wall, the Scarecrow said, "Oh my!" There he is. "Go on," exclaimed Dorothy. "Tell us." So the Scarecrow climbed farther up and sat down on the top of the wall, and Dorothy put her head over and cried, "Oh my!" just as the Scarecrow had done. Then Toto came up and immediately began to bark, but Dorothy made him be still. The Lion climbed the ladder next, and the Tin Woodman came last, and both of them cried, "Oh my!" as soon as they looked over the wall. When they were all sitting in a row on the top of the wall, they looked down and saw a very strange sight. Before them was a great stretch of country, having a floor as smooth and shining and white as the bottom of a big dinner plate. Scattered around them were many houses made entirely of glass and of china, and painted in the brightest colors you've ever seen. These houses were quite small, the biggest of them only reaching as high as Dorothy's waist. There were also pretty little barns with china fences around them, and many little china cows and china sheep, and glass horses and pigs and chickens, all made of china or glass, and they were all standing about in groups. But the strangest of all were the people that lived in this strange country. They were milkmaids and shepherdesses, like Little Bo Peep. That's what they're dressed as, with bright colored dresses and golden spots all over their gowns, and princesses with the most gorgeous frocks of silver and gold and purple, and shepherds dressed in knee breeches with pink and yellow and blue stripes down them, and golden buckles on their shoes, and princes with jeweled crowns upon their heads, wearing ermine robes and satin doublets, and funny little clowns in ruffled gowns with round red spots upon their cheeks and tall pointed caps. And strangest of all, these people were all made of china, even their clothes. And they were so small that the tallest of them was no higher than Dorothy's knee. So all of these little china people are as tall as Dorothy's knee, and all of their little homes and houses and farms and churches all just go up to their waist. No one did so much as look at the travelers at first, except one little purple china dog with an extra large head, which came to the wall and barked at them in a tiny voice, and then afterwards ran away again. How shall we get down off this wall?" asked Dorothy. They found the ladder so heavy that they couldn't pull it up from the other side. So the Scarecrow decided to fall off the wall and let the others jump down upon him so that the hard china floor would not hurt their feet. Of course, they took great pains not to land on his head and get all the pins in their feet. When they were all safely down, they picked up the Scarecrow, whose body was quite flattened out, and patted his straw into shape again. "We must cross this strange place in order to get to the other side," said Dorothy. "It would be unwise for us to go any other way except right south to see Glinda." They began walking through the country of China people, and the first thing they came to was a China milkmaid milking a China cow. As they drew near, the cow suddenly gave a kick and kicked over the stool, the pail, and the milkmaid herself, all falling on the China ground with a great clatter. Dorothy was shocked to see that the cow had broken her leg off, and the pail was lying in several small pieces, while the poor milkmaid had a nick in her elbow. "Oh, there!" cried the milkmaid angrily. "See what you have done! My cow has broken her leg, and I must take her to the mended shop to have it glued on again. What do you mean by coming here and frightening my cow?" "Oh, I'm very sorry," returned Dorothy. "Please forgive us." But the pretty milkmaid was much too vexed to make an answer. She picked up the leg sulkily and led her cow away, the poor animal limping on 3 legs. As she left them, the milkmaid cast many reproachful glances over her shoulder at the clumsy strangers, holding her nicked elbow close to her on one side. Nicked means broken. Dorothy was quite grieved at this mishap. "Oh, we must be very careful here," said the kind-hearted woodman, "or we may hurt these pretty little people so much they might not get over it." A little farther on, Dorothy met a most beautifully dressed young princess, who stopped short as she saw the strangers and started to run away. So there's the cow, and there's her pail, which is very broken, and there's the milkmaid. And so because they're made of glass, when they fall down, they break. Dorothy wanted to see more of the princess that was running away, so she ran after her. But the China girl called out, "Please don't chase me! Please don't chase me!" She had such a frightened little voice that Dorothy stopped and said, "Well, why not?" "Because," answered the princess, also stopping a safe distance away, "if I run, I may fall down and break myself." "Well, can't you be mended?" asked Dorothy. "Oh, yes, but one is never so pretty after being mended, you know," replied the glass princess. "Oh, I suppose not," said Dorothy. "Now there is Mr. Joker. He's one of our clowns," continued the China lady, "and he is always trying to stand upon his head. He's broken himself so often that he's mended in 100 places and doesn't look pretty at all. Here he comes now so you can see for yourself." Indeed, a jolly little clown now came walking toward them, and Dorothy could see that in spite of his pretty clothes of red and yellow and green, he was completely covered in cracks, running every which way and showing plainly that he had been mended in many places. The clown put his hands in his pockets, and after puffing out his cheeks and nodding his head at them saucily, he said, "My lady fair, why do you stare at poor old Mr. Joker? You're quite as stiff and prim as if you've eaten up a poker." "Oh, be quiet, sir," said the princess. "Can't you see these are strangers and they should be treated with respect?" "Well, that's respect I expect," declared the clown, and immediately he stood on his head. "Oh, please don't mind Mr. Joker," said the princess to Dorothy. "He's very cracked in the head. That makes him foolish." "Oh, I don't mind him a bit," said Dorothy. "But you are just so beautiful," Dorothy continued. "I'm sure I would love you dearly. Won't you let me carry you back to Kansas, and I'll stand you on Auntie M's mantel shelf. I'll carry you in my basket." "Oh, no, that would make me very unhappy," answered the China princess. "You see, here in our country, we live contentedly, and we can talk and we can move around as we please. But when we're taken out of our country, our joints stiffen, and we can only stand straight and look pretty. Of course, that's all that's expected of us when we're on mantel shelves and cabinets and drawing room tables. But our lives are much happier here in our own country, where we may move about and talk. Well, I would not want to make you unhappy for all the world, exclaimed Dorothy, so I'll just say goodbye. Goodbye, replied the princess. They walked carefully through the China country. The little animals and all the people scampered out of their way, fearing that the strangers would break them. And after an hour or so, the travelers finally reached the other side of the country and came to another China wall. It was not as high as the first, however, and by standing upon the lion's back, they all managed to scramble to the top. Then the lion gathered his legs under him and jumped on the wall. But just as he jumped up, he upset a tiny little China church with his tail and smashed it all to pieces. "Oh, that's too bad," said Dorothy. "But really, I think we were lucky in not doing these little people more harm than breaking a cow's leg in a little church. They're all so brittle." "Oh, they are indeed," said the Scarecrow. "And I'm thankful I'm made of straw and cannot be easily damaged. There are worse things in the world than being a scarecrow." And that's where we're going to end. And here is the tiny little China clown who, if you look closely, has been broken a ton of times. And that's the end of chapter 20. Chapter 21 is called The Lion Becomes the King of Beasts. And there's actually no other pictures for the dainty little China country, not even in our picture book. So it's almost as if, since it's such a strange little land and it's all in one chapter, the characters kind of see it and then they're gone. So it's really not mentioned in other versions or in the movie, which is interesting. So I hope you enjoyed it. In the next chapter, we're going to hear about how the lion becomes the king of the forest. And yeah, we're almost done. They're almost to the land of the South. We'll see how their journey continues. All right, Munchkins. Bye. There's no place like home.